Ever feel like you've signed up for something, given your consent, and then later thought, wait a minute, I'm not so sure about this anymore? Specifically, have you ever wondered if you can actually withdraw your consent for a company like Flinks to use your financial data? You're not alone. Data privacy is a huge concern these days, and understanding your rights is absolutely crucial. So, can you pull the plug on Flinks accessing your information? The short answer is yes, but there are some important nuances to understand. Let's dive in. First, let's quickly recap what Flinks is and why they might have your data in the first place. Flinks is a platform that connects to your financial institutions, like your bank, to securely share your financial data with other companies. Think of it as a bridge between your bank and, say, a lender who needs to verify your income, or a budgeting app that wants to help you track your spending. You, the consumer, are the one who gives Flinks permission to access this data in the first place. This permission is what we call consent. Now, the crucial point here is that consent isn't a one-way street. Just because you've given it once doesn't mean you're locked in forever. You have the right to change your mind. You have the right to withdraw your consent. This is a fundamental principle of data privacy, and it's something that companies like Flinks are legally obligated to respect. So, how do you actually go about withdrawing your consent? The process can vary slightly depending on how you initially granted access to Flinks, but the general principle is the same. The first step is to identify where you gave that consent. Did you connect your bank account through a specific app that uses Flinks? Or did you authorize access through a website? Pinpointing the source is key. Once you know where you gave consent, you'll need to look for options to manage your connections or authorizations. Many apps and websites have a settings or privacy section where you can review the third-party services you've granted access to. Within these settings, you should find a list of connected accounts or authorized applications. Look for Flinks, or the specific service that's using Flinks, in this list. The terminology might vary. You might see options like disconnect, revoke access, remove, or delete connection. The exact wording isn't as important as the action. You're looking for the option that allows you to sever the link between your financial institution and the service using Flinks. Now, here's where it can get a little tricky. Simply disconnecting an app from your bank account might not be enough to completely withdraw your consent for Flinks to hold your data. You might also need to contact the company that's using Flinks directly. For example, if you connected your bank account to a lending platform via Flinks, disconnecting on the bank's side may only stop future data sharing. The lender might still have records of the data that Flinks already provided them. Therefore, it's best practice to contact both the service provider and Flinks directly. Flinks, as the data processor, has an obligation to respect your request to withdraw consent. They should be able to guide you through the process of deleting your data from their systems. How do you contact Flinks? Their website should have contact information, usually a support email address or a contact form. Reach out to them and clearly state your request to withdraw your consent and have your data deleted. Be specific. Mention the specific financial institutions you connected and any services you used that involved Flinks. Keep a record of your communication with both the service provider and Flinks. This documentation can be useful if you encounter any issues or delays in the process. Now, let's address some common questions or concerns you might have. What happens to the data that Flinks already has? When you withdraw your consent, Flinks should delete your data from their systems. However, as mentioned earlier, the companies that received your data through Flinks might have their own copies. That's why contacting those companies directly is so important. Another question is, what happens if you want to use that service again in the future? If you withdraw your consent and delete your data, you'll likely have to go through the entire authorization process again. You'll need to reconnect your bank account and grant Flinks permission to access your data. It's like starting fresh. It's also worth noting that withdrawing your consent might impact your ability to use certain services. If a lender needs to verify your income and they can no longer access your financial data through Flinks, they might not be able to process your loan application. So, consider the consequences before you withdraw your consent. Finally, remember that data privacy is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time thing. Regularly review the apps and services you've connected to your financial accounts. Understand what data they're accessing and how they're using it. Don't be afraid to ask questions and exercise your right to withdraw your consent whenever you feel it's necessary. Withdrawing your consent is a right, not a privilege. It's about you being in control of your own data. Don't hesitate to take the necessary steps to protect your privacy. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.